Okay, let's start again here. So let's see what the questions bring tonight. We'll see if anything good here. What does it say on the back? Is this anything interesting, or is it anything about Buddhism? Okay, forget it. That's okay. So let's get started. So first question: what does the Buddha teaching says in the following circumstances? 1, killing the mosquitoes that will transmit the dengue fever. Okay. 2, giving money to a beggar who may or may not be a real beggar. Someone who tries to deceive you and who tries to delay payment of rent, should we chase for the money or let the karma take its course? Okay, so okay, good. These are good questions because they are kind of ethical dilemmas of morality, and we have to try to negotiate some of these dilemmas in our lives. Yeah, this is often some of the difficulties with making good ethical decisions to decide how to deal with these difficult circumstances. And remember that when the Buddha talks about kamma, when he talks about ethics, is that ethics in the end has to do with your intention. Yeah, intention. Kammang ahang bhikkhave cetana. Which way does it go? One of these ways. Kamma is cetana in Buddhism. Cetana is intention. So it is intention that matters. Yeah, that is the kind of the final analysis of whether your kamma is going to be good or bad. So let's take the case of the dengue fever mosquitoes, yeah, that transmit dengue fever. What should we do with that? And in a situation like that, the question is, why do we kill those mosquitoes? And we kill them because they cause problems. Yeah, they cause very serious problems in the population. So is it bad karma or good karma? It is kind of a mixed kind of karma. Yeah, you are killing them because they are causing very serious problems. You're not doing it out of hatred. Your motivation is not hatred towards those mosquitoes. It is more like compassion to human beings. It is not out of greed. It's not out of delusion. So the karma is kind of grey. You are killing. It's not nice to kill. All beings want to live, but you're not doing it for a very bad reason. You're doing it out of a sense of compassion for people. And this is one of the interesting things in the suttas when you look at karma in detail. The Buddha talks about 4 types of karma. There's the karma that is bright and has bright results. The karma which is dark and has dark results. The karma that is both bright and dark and has both bright and dark results. And the karma that is neither dark nor bright and has neither dark nor bright results. So the karma that is bright and has bright results is like when you do something really good, yeah, with the pure intention of your heart. You just come out of a really nice meditation and you want to give to the whole world, yeah? And you just, whoa, you give out and you feel so. It's a very pure and kind act. That is an act which is a pure act with pure results. Actually, it's even deeper in the suttas. It is the kind of action which leads to rebirth in the Brahma realms, is what is called the really pure acts. And then the really dark one is when you do something really nasty out of a very nasty intention. Yeah, a very kind of bad motive, your hatred or something like that. And then there's everything in between, where it is kind of mixed. It is both dark and bright at the same time. Yeah, it is kind of, I prefer to call it grayish. A lot of our intentions are not pure, nor are they very dark. They're somewhere in between. And if we're going to kill mosquitoes that carry dengue fever, it's not, I don't think it is a very terribly karmic act. I don't think it's very bad. It is not very good either, obviously. You're killing living beings, but it's somewhere in between. And it's not something that I would kind of be too concerned about myself. Of course, you try to find if there is an alternative. Is there an alternative way of dealing with this problem? If there is, without killing the mosquitoes, you use the alternative. Can we use mosquito nets? Will that be as good? Will that work? And perhaps not, yeah? How many people are actually affected by dengue fever? If it's only a very small number, it may not be necessary to kill all those mosquitoes, yeah? So you look at all of these various variables, and then you kind of calculate what the best way of dealing with it is. What is the long-term solution? The long-term solution is to avoid the mosquitoes breeding, yeah? You don't have any breeding spots for the mosquitoes. And this is how they have wiped out malaria in large parts of the world, by cracking down on that kind of thing. In Singapore, they've been very careful, for example, with not having breeding spots for mosquitoes, and they had a lot of success in eradicating the illnesses on that basis. So you look at the alternatives, but if in the end you find that there is no alternative but to killing mosquitoes for this reason, it is not a terrible act. But if you enjoy killing mosquitoes for the enjoyment of it, then it's much worse. Yeah, I just hate mosquitoes, smack, I'm going to kill you. That is not very nice, yeah. That is what is really bad. But even if a mosquito comes on your arm and it wants to bite you and wants a little bit of your blood, what are you going to do? Are you going to kill it? Many people just kill it, they slap it straight away. Is that really necessary? Probably not. Yeah, this mosquito is coming for a little meal. Okay, have a meal. That's okay. I have enough blood. I can share a bit with someone else. Please take a tiny little amount, and please don't leave any dengue fever. All right, that's kind of the deal. Otherwise, the deal is out. So this is, I think, the right way of thinking about these things. It comes back to motivation and intention. That is the most important point. Yes, the first precept says we shouldn't kill, but the first precept is a very blunt kind of instrument. It doesn't give you the details about the karma. The first precept is like a generalization. It doesn't give you the details of how to deal with these things. Okay. Second one, giving money to a beggar who may or may not be a real beggar. Well, the question again should be your intention. Yeah, what do you feel like? Let's say that you go along the street and you see someone very poor. There are lots of poor people around. It's everywhere. You go to some of the most wealthy cities in the world and they have beggars on the streets. Yeah, it's very common these days. People who sleep on the street, often people with mental problems. Yeah, who sleep outside. It can be terrible, terrible things. If you walk along and you suddenly feel a sense of compassion for someone like that, you may not know for 100% sure whether they are a real beggar or not, but you feel a sense of compassion. Give. It's going to be very good karma. You're coming from a very wholesome place. Yeah, this is again the idea. It is motivation and intention that decides the value of the karma. Give. Every time you feel an urge to give, for goodness sake, don't hold back, because that is the time you have the chance to make some really powerful karma in your life. When you really want to give, the compassion is strong, the mindfulness is going to be strong. When the mindfulness and compassion are strong, it's going to leave a very powerful imprint on your mind. And then when you come to your meditation practice, you're going to remember that, because the imprint is so powerful. That is what is called Chaga Nusati. Chaga Nusati is the recollection of your kindness and generosity. Yeah, so use those opportunities. Don't become cynical. Yeah, are you a real beggar? You look a bit dodgy to me. Yeah, 50-50 chance you're a real beggar. If you start like that, you can't give anywhere after a while, because it's always possible to be cynical. Yeah, everyone is potentially dodgy. How do you know I'm a real monk? Maybe I'm a really dodgy monk. You don't know. Can't be 100% sure. How well do you know me anyway? Yeah, I come to Hong Kong once a year. I can always put on a show once a year, right? You don't know. Best not to give anything to me, yeah? Hold that money back until you find a real monk. You're absolutely sure. Not these dodgy Australian monks. Anyway, I'm not even Australian. Who knows where I come from? Yeah. You can think like that, and then of course you're never going to be generous because you are so cynical about these things. So when you feel a sense of generosity, the compassion comes out. Give. This is the opportunity. Now is the right time. That is the way to do it. Don't be too cynical. I'm not suggesting you shouldn't use any discernment. You should definitely use discernment. And if you really think that someone is dodgy, then don't give. For example, when you go to India and you see all these beggars in India, sometimes you know that they are kind of working in groups, yeah, and they're basically there to rip off the tourists. And if you see that, of course, in that case, you don't do it. But there are other situations where you really should. So you use discernment, but you don't try to be overly cynical. It's always that middle way is the way to go. When someone tries to deceive you or tries to delay payment or rent, should we chase the money? You should chase the money. Of course you should chase the money. If they're trying to deceive you, you have the right to be paid. Chase the money. Try to if you can find out what is the reason why they're trying to deceive you, maybe they really are in a financial difficult situation. There could be many reasons, yeah. So try to figure out a few things, and if you think that they are in a financial difficult situation, say, okay, I can give you a month or two delay. Is that going to work for you? Yeah. So try to be kind even in these situations. But in the end, it is okay to look after your own interest, especially if people are dodgy, if people do bad things. One of our very close disciples in Perth recently, they lost $4 million in fraud to someone who defrauded their business. And of course, they took them to court. Yeah, you have to take people like that to court, otherwise it's very unreasonable. So you have to take them to court. And sometimes it is not a bad thing. Maybe you think it is not compassionate to take people to court, but sometimes it is, because sometimes people learn if they get found out in this way. So it's not necessarily bad, but you don't try to make it worse than it actually is. So yes, that is okay, but try to do even that with compassion. Try to understand why they're doing it. They are probably deluded, yeah? Anyone who has their own best interest in mind will never defraud anyone else, because the only person they're hurting at the end of the day is themselves. So they are obviously deluded. They have a problem, yeah? So have compassion for them at the same time. Have compassion, but also be realistic. Okay. These ethical dilemmas are very useful because they kind of bring out the subtleties of the Buddha's teachings, which is quite useful, and then you can make better decisions on with these things. Okay, dear Ajahn Brahmāli, you teach that some subtle defilements can be the hindrance to the deeper meditation states. But when we are blissing out during meditation, will it be hard to notice and tackle these hindrances? Thank you. Usually what you do is that you do, if it's wonderful that you're blissing out during meditation, yeah, well done, it's really nice. And there are always a number of people on these retreats who have really enjoyed their meditation, and a wonderful thing that happens. So what you do is you don't investigate this while you are during your meditation practice. What you do is you wait till after you come out. And after you come out, you look back on the experience. So because you are blissing out in this way, it's going to be a very powerful experience for you. It's going to be very easy to remember afterwards. And afterwards, when you investigate, you can see what remains. Yeah, so you will see, for example, you're blissing out, but you maybe see that the mind is not 100% stable. It may be moving a little bit. Yeah, and what that means is that there is a little bit of restlessness still in the mind. So next time you think, okay, there's a bit of restlessness there. So next time when I focus on the object, I will try to focus more on the center of the object to reduce the restlessness. I'll try to avoid the movement. Yeah, and in this way you kind of learn from your past mistakes gradually. You focus on the area which is most stable, and you stay with that, and you then allow the restlessness to disappear. So it is afterwards that you decide these things. Or you can maybe feel that you're not able to let go of the five senses fully. Maybe you feel that you're still holding on a little bit. You are frightened of letting go. Yeah? And when you're frightened of letting go, okay, then you maybe need to do a little bit of body contemplation so you can get rid of the body and the five senses. So you get some perspective, but do it afterwards when you have that clarity. Okay. Okay, is the karma concept something to scare the people so that they will follow the Buddha's teachings? Yes. No. Be scared, give lots of donations, right? Then you have really good karma afterwards. This is not the point. The point of karma teachings is that this is the discovery of the Buddha. Yeah, he discovered this. On his night of awakening night, he had three discoveries. One was rebirth, one was the idea of karma, and the last one was the actual awakening experience when you make an end of all suffering. So it is, from the Buddhist point of view, it is just the way the world works. Yeah, the world functions in this way. If you do bad, bad things come back to you. If you do good, good things come to you. You think that's true? actually it's very obvious that this must be the case. And I will, the way to understand this, and this is the way I like to teach kamma, there is 3 types of kamma in the suttas. There's the kamma with which you experience the results in this very life. There is kamma that you experience the results in a future life. And there's kamma where you experience the results in some life beyond that. Now the kamma where you experience the results in a future life or lives beyond that, you don't know. Yeah, maybe you will be happy, it's just very hard to know. But the kamma you experience the results in this very life, you can actually know something about that. How do you know that? And the simplest way of understanding that is to feel what it feels like when you do an intentional action. If you do something bad towards somebody, yeah, you say something which wasn't quite nice, or you maybe do something which isn't quite right. Sometimes maybe you just think a nasty thought. Yeah, most people think nasty thoughts every now and again, unless you are a complete saint, which would be great. Congratulations if you are. But if you're not, then you sometimes think little nasty thoughts, perhaps. What does it feel like when you do that? Yeah, when you have a thought which isn't quite nice, or you say something bad, what does it feel like? And if you look carefully what it feels like you are dragging yourself down. Yeah, you feel bad about it afterwards. It's like you're losing your energy a little bit. If you're really angry, you have the energy of the anger, but as soon as that energy of the anger drops down, you feel kind of slightly depressed because you did something bad. It drags you down. Notice that. That is the immediate kamma in this very life of acting in a bad way. You can feel it actually works like that. And when you feel that, then you understand also the more bad actions you do, the more you drag yourself down. It's cumulative. It accumulates more and more bad things, down, 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 until you feel really low and terrible about yourself after a while. And it's exactly the opposite with good acts. Suddenly one day, if you feel this incredible impulse to be generous, and you just want to give, and you give on that impulse, very often you feel really uplifted from that. Straight away you get a boost of joy in the mind because you're doing something which is very pure. I'm sure many of you have had that experience sometimes. This sudden kind of, wow, you want to do something good, you do something good, and you feel joyful afterwards as a consequence. And that is the immediate result of good kamma in this life. So you can actually experience kamma right here, right now. Now, if you keep on accumulating this, accumulating the good kamma, not doing the bad stuff, you are lifting your mind up. It becomes brighter and brighter and brighter. And of course, then when you die with a very bright mind. That is the mind you take with you into the future life. And this is how good kamma leads to good rebirth, because you take that bright mind with you into the future life. It's kind of almost logical when you think about it. This is how it has to work. So don't think about it, whether you get a big mansion in heaven and all that. That's kind of irrelevant. Don't worry about that. What matters is that you take the happy mind with you into the future. That is what matters. So think about it like this. Think about it in a practical way, in a way that encourages you to do good acts in the present life. And if you do it in that way, it will be very supportive for your practice. Is it used so that we will follow the Buddha's teachings? Sometimes people use kamma in very dodgy ways. And you see this in Buddhism sometimes. You go to certain temples, and if you give a donation of a certain size, you get to sit in the front row. Have you seen those temples? If you give a big donation, then you get the front row. Give a medium donation, you get the middle row. But not little donation, you go to the very back. So those of you in the back, give a bigger donation next time, and you can move up to the front over here. No, it doesn't work. Not in this place. In this place, everyone is welcome. It doesn't matter what kind of donation you give. You give because you feel it is right. You don't give to sit in the front row. But sometimes it is like that, and is used in this particular way, and it destroys the whole beautiful idea of generosity when we do it like that. It should be something pure. It should be coming from a good place. It shouldn't be a business deal. I give this and I get this back. You do it simply for the joy of giving. And when you give for the joy of giving, that is when you get the most in return as well. This is the right way of doing things. And it becomes very, very nice. The Buddha says this in the suttas. He says there's different kind of karmic return on how to give in the right way. And sometimes the one kind of giving is a give because it's the family tradition to give. Yeah, every Christmas or every kind of Vesak, we go to the temple, we give a donation to the temple or whatever. The family has done this for a long time. Okay, I better carry on doing this. That kind of giving. And then there is the giving. The highest kind of giving is you give simply because you know it purifies your mind and it gives joy to your heart. This is the highest kind of giving. Why? Because it's pure. You're not asking for anything in return apart from the joy that it gives you. So there is a lot of art to giving. It is not as a simple thing. And if you give in the right way, it's far, far better. Okay. During meditation, sometimes I have to take a deep breath. Why is it like that? I don't know, yeah. It's probably just the body. Maybe you are a little bit tense, yeah, I don't know. Or maybe the body is trying to release something. Sometimes the body can do strange things during meditation. Sometimes it's just your perception. You feel like it. I don't know. Ajahn Brahm told me a story of there was this lady who came to him and said, "Oh, I'm kind of all over the place when I meditate." And Ajahn Brahm says, "No, you're not." "Yeah, yes, I am. I can feel I'm all over the place. I'm kind of moving like this when I do a meditation practice." I said, "No, you're not. I've been watching you. You're sitting perfectly straight." He said, "No, I know that I'm all over the place." Ajahn said, "Okay, I'm going to get a video camera. I'm going to video you while you meditate, and then you can see what is going on." And then eventually she realized it was just in her mind. Yeah, it was a perception that she was having, and a lot of people have these kind of perceptions. And sometimes it is real things that actually the body does move. You do take a deep breath. At other times it's just in your mind. But whatever it is, sometimes it is as if you need to release something. Don't stop those things. Yeah, just be natural in your meditation. Allow, if there are emotions that need to come out, allow those emotions to come out. If the body needs to move, allow the body to move. If you block these things, very likely you will block the progress of your meditation. Because these are things that you have probably blocked for a long time, and when you relax, then you allow these things to come out. There was one lady who told me she had been crying a lot during her meditation. And Ajahn Brahm had told her, just make sure you have a lot of water so you can rehydrate. That's a good advice, isn't it? So if you cry a lot, just make sure you have enough water so you don't get dehydrated. That's all you have to do. And of course, the point of that advice is that you should not force yourself to stop. If you need to cry, cry. It's okay. Yeah, there's no shame in crying, so you cry. If there's anything else you have to do, just allow these things to come out. Because sometimes we have to suppress our emotions in ordinary life because it's not really accepted to show our emotions all the time. But then in meditation it comes out again. So allow it to come out. And then you feel much more at ease afterwards as a consequence. If you need to take a deep breath, take the deep breath. It's just your body reacting to something. The body needs some kind of release. Don't worry about it. Go with the flow. Go with what feels natural. And then you are heading in the right direction. After meditation, the head feels very heavy sometimes. What should I do? Okay, so the head feels heavy. This quite likely because of some sort of sloth, perhaps. Yeah, you feel tired. You haven't had enough clarity of the mind. Or you have maybe used too much force in your meditation, you haven't really relaxed enough, you're not really aware that you are using force. So try to change something, try to change your posture a little bit, try to do less, try not to watch the breath so quickly, just sit back and enjoy the peace for a longer period of time. It was very nice before during the meditation. It's so peaceful here actually. It's very beautiful energy here. So tap into that energy, feel that energy for a long time and just allow the peace to permeate you. Don't force the mind to do anything in particular and then learn to relax properly and then brighten up the mind. And when the mind gets brightened up, the sloth and torpor and the tiredness and all of that will gradually disappear. Yeah, so try different things. If none of that works, do a bit of walking meditation instead. Just walk back and forth outside. Yeah, just very gently. Don't have to do anything in particular. You can watch your feet if you want to. Don't have to do that. You can just walk back and forth. And again, just enjoy the peace. Yeah, or you can do metta meditation while you're walking. You can do anything, really, that works for you. So just change around a little bit and see what happens. That heaviness, you may find the reason. If you keep on investigating, you will find the reason why that heaviness is there. Nowadays, people apply mindfulness in a secular context, such as psychological intervention, commercial, corporate training, etc. Do you think it is beneficial for people if they don't practice the other Noble Eightfold Path, the other factors of the Noble Eightfold Path? I think it can be. Yeah, it really depends on the circumstances. It depends on how it is taught. But really what it comes down to is how people feel about themselves afterwards. If they feel more relaxed and more at ease, then normally, if you have less stress, you become a better person. Yeah, a lot of stress in life, often you become angry and upset and all these kind of things. But if you are more relaxed and at ease, you become a better person. So I think it's okay. As long as people feel good about it, I think it's fine. Sometimes people say that these corporations, they're just using mindfulness to get more money out of people, they can work harder. And maybe, but the point is, does the employee benefit? If the employee benefits and the corporation benefits, win-win situation. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. So it really depends on if just the corporation benefits and they're kind of squeezing the employee even more dry, well then you might ask yourself of the ethics of the situation. But if everyone benefits, I don't think there is any problem there. So this is what it really comes down to. But I agree with you. Mindfulness on its own is going to have very limited effects. It is much better to incorporate it into the whole Noble Eightfold Path. And of course, ethics is really one of the fundamental things that we should start teaching people. And this is why Ajahn Brahm coined this beautiful term, kindfulness. Yeah, because kindfulness has the idea of combining kindness with mindfulness. And that is when it becomes really powerful. Okay, Venerable Bhante, would you please elaborate a bit more on contemplating the body as a body, etc.? Thank you. Okay? So, again, what this means is a large number of contemplations mentioned in the Satipatthana Sutta, and I like to translate, instead of translating as a body as the body. The Pali formula actually means something like kaya kayanupasi, means contemplate the body in the body. It's actually a locative form. It's a particular grammatical form called a locative. So it's like in the body or among bodies. So you find that in the Anapanasati Sutta, it says that the breath is one body among the bodies. Yeah, because the word kaya means like a group of things. That is why it is a body, like a body of evidence in English. The word body in English doesn't just mean physical body, it can mean any grouping of similar phenomena coming together. So for that reason, the breath can be a body. Yeah, so that is one body among various kinds of bodies. The 32 or 31 parts of the body is another way, is an aspect of the body, a particular way of looking at the body. So I like to translate it something like you contemplate one aspect of the body, or you contemplate one body, kaya kayanupasi, one grouping among other groupings, or something like that. It's a little bit diffuse how you should translate it, but I think body as a body doesn't make all that much sense. It's taken from the commentaries where they say that you contemplate the body not as something that belongs to you or as a self, but purely as a body. That's where it comes from, but I don't actually, not sure if that is the original meaning of the actual Pali of the Satipatthana Sutta itself. So 31 parts of the body. If you want to do that, then just visualize the parts of the body. Yeah, you can try that if you wish, but I wouldn't recommend it for most people unless you are specifically interested. Try the four. You can try the 4 element meditation if you like. It's a bit more neutral, and that too can give up the a lot of attachment to the body simply by realizing the nature of the body is the same as the nature of phenomena outside. Then there are all these other aspects of Satipatthana practice, Kayanupassana. But as I was saying earlier on today, the core aspects is the 31 parts of the body and the 4 elements. All the other things are, in my opinion, and this is probably going to be very controversial in most of the Theravada world, but in my opinion they are very likely to be later additions to the Satipatthana Sutta. Yeah, and the reason why this is controversial is because the vast majority of people in the Theravada tradition, they have only read the Satipatthana Sutta in Pali. But if you read the Satipatthana Sutta in Chinese, if you read the Abhidhamma version of the Satipatthana Sutta, and if you read all the versions that are available, there's about 7 different versions available, and you compare them, what it boils down to is really the 31 parts of the body. That's the one thing which exists across the board and everywhere. If you go to the Abhidhamma, there's a book of the Abhidhamma called the Vibhanga, and the Vibhanga is one of the earliest parts of the Abhidhamma, and it says specifically that the only Kayanupassana is the 31 parts of the body. That's all that's in there. Yeah, so this is quite likely to be an early thing, and then other things are very likely, in my opinion, to have been added later on. So, for example, I mentioned earlier on today about the mindfulness of breathing. Yeah, and the mindfulness of breathing is found under Kayanupassana, but it doesn't belong under Kayanupassana because mindfulness of breathing belongs under all the 4 Satipatthanas. It is a complete practice of Satipatthana, so it shouldn't be under Kayanupassana. It actually belongs to the whole set. That's what I mentioned before. So you start off, when you start off watching the breath, you are doing Kayanupassana. As you continue watching the breath and you start feeling bliss and happiness, you are doing Vedananupassana. As you start getting nimittas and all these kind of things, you're doing Chittanupassana. When you start contemplating your experience afterwards and you think back on it, you're doing Dhammanupassana. So the contemplation of the breath is everything. Yeah, the whole Satipatthana is actually practiced in this way, and that's why the breath does not belong under Kayanupassana, contemplation of the body. Then you have things like the Sampajanya contemplation. Yeah, you have Sampajanya, clear comprehension when walking towards or walking away, looking one way, looking to the side, when eating, and all of these kind of things. And that too, I don't think, was originally part of the Satipatthana Sutta. That is a clear comprehension, was something that you did when you went on alms round and when you did not do formal meditation practice. Same thing with mindfulness of the 4 postures, another aspect of the Satipatthana Sutta. The last big aspect of the Kayanupassana is the cemetery contemplations. And these are perhaps original, perhaps not. It's a little bit more iffy. I think the most crucial one is the 31 parts of the body. Maybe the next important one is the 4 elements. And then the cemetery contemplations. Maybe, maybe not. I don't think they are that important. But this is about contemplating a corpse. Yeah, you contemplate a corpse, someone is dead, and you see what happens to the body when it decays. That's what it's all about. Monks would often go to cemeteries, and they would kind of do their meditation in cemeteries. Ajahn Brahm tells from Thailand, they would often do this. They would go to cemeteries and they would sit meditation. And he would always say that in the Thai monks, they were terrified of cemeteries because in Thai culture, you have a lot of ghost stories, yeah? From you were tiny, you heard all these ghost stories. So you were so afraid of ghosts. By the time you're an adult, you're absolutely terrified of ghosts. So the idea of going to the cemetery is absolutely no chance. You get a Thai monk to go to the cemetery. Can't do that. But because in the West we don't grow up with the ghost stories, we're not so afraid of ghosts. Maybe that's our problem, yeah? Maybe there are lots of ghosts there. Maybe we should be afraid. So usually the Western monks, they will go to the cemeteries and kind of sit there at all night. I'm not sure if it really made any difference. Yeah, you go there, okay. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But you can do these kind of things. You can test them out if you want to. I wouldn't particularly recommend it. It's not very pleasant. Yeah, I would choose the more pleasant path if I were you, unless you are really kind of super keen. And then you can try these other practices if you like. So these are the Kaya Anupassanas, and I think from a historical point of view, it is actually very interesting to try to sort out the difference between the most original parts, which probably were taught by the Buddha, and things that have been added through history. And it is fairly clear that this has happened when you start to compare the sutta in this way. But if I were you, I would just focus on the breath. Makes it so simple, because the breath covers everything. And that makes life so easy when you have one little aspect like that. Okay, so I hope that helps. And if it doesn't, please ask again tomorrow. Okay, are the 4 applications of mindfulness the same as the 4 focuses of mindfulness, as mentioned by Ajahn Brahm? Can you elaborate on this? Thank you, Ajahn. They are exactly the same. This is just Ajahn Brahm's translation. He translates as the 4 focuses of mindfulness. It's also quite a nice translation, actually, because you are focusing your mindfulness on the object. It's the same idea as applying the mindfulness to the object. Yeah, both of those translations are much better than the 4 foundations of mindfulness. That is the one I don't like, because foundation of mindfulness gives the idea that you're building up mindfulness. But that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is we build up mindfulness first, then we apply it during Satipatthana to certain objects. So application of focus is really a preferable translation. And they mean roughly the same thing as far as I'm concerned anyway. Dear Ajahn, you talked about the importance of jhana stillness leading to enlightenment. However, back to the Buddha's times, many ascetics can practice very high states of jhana, but still they did not become enlightened. So my question is, how can I be sure that I practice correct stillness? Thank you. The reason they didn't become enlightened, and whether they practiced jhana or not is a debated topic. It is not 100% sure, but it seems like they quite likely had good samadhi. But the reason why they didn't become enlightened is because it wasn't samma samadhi. What is samma samadhi? And samma samadhi is jhana plus the other 7 factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. Yeah, those other 7 factors of the Noble Eightfold Path need to support that jhana attainment. And that includes right view. Yeah, so if you haven't got right view, then you have a problem. And this is the reason why it didn't work at the time of the Buddha, because a lot of these ascetics, a lot of these, especially the Brahmanical tradition, the Brahmanical ascetics, they had the sasata ditti, the eternalist view. So what they were looking for a true self. They were looking for something permanent inside of themselves. Yeah, and when they got to the jhana, lo and behold, there it was. That was the permanent essence. So they would interpret the jhana as a permanent essence, and because of that, they wouldn't go beyond it. They would stop there. That is the problem. Wrong view blocks you from going any further. So the reason that you are going to go further, who are you? Not sure who you are. The reason you will go further is because you have right view. Yeah, this is what brainwashing is all about. You have been brainwashed by the Buddha, by Ajahn Brahm, by whoever. So because the brainwashing is there, you will cut through the nonsense and you will go straight to awakening when you get there. That is the whole point. So when you come out of jhana, instead of saying, yeah, I discovered God, this is Brahma, lo and behold, wow, I have been unified with God for the last hour or so. Instead of thinking like that, you will think, okay, now I've got a jhana experience, now I will investigate it. And when you investigate that jhana experience, you see that that too is empty, that too is constructed, that too is non-self. And when you see that, that is when things start to happen. So this is the distinction, and this is why, for example, when the Buddha, he had all these early teachers, Alara Kalama and Uddakaramaputta, they were the two teachers of the Buddha before his awakening, and they are supposed to have very high samadhi. There is an argument which I can make that they didn't have samadhi, but let's forget about that. Let's assume they had very high samadhi. But then later on, remember, many of you will know this story probably. After the Buddha leaves those two teachers, then he teaches the ascetic practices for several years. And then one day he stops up and he realizes these ascetic practices are not taking me to awakening. Am I going wrong? Yeah, you all know that story, right? And then when he does that, he thinks back to the time when he was a young boy sitting under the rose apple tree, and he thinks back to that jhana experience he had as a young boy. So why doesn't he think back to the time when he was with these other teachers? Why does he think even further back? He's supposed to already have attained the very highest of samadhi under Alara Kalama and Uddakaramaputta. Why doesn't he think back to that? And quite likely the answer is that because that samadhi experience that he had under these other teachers was conjoined with wrong view. They had wrong views, so there already was a complete misapprehension. There was a misunderstanding about those states, yeah? And the Buddha to be, at that time, he would have similar ideas to them. He would have looked upon those states as problematic because they were conjoined with wrong view. So he wouldn't consider those. And that's why he would go back to his earlier experience. Yeah, so this wrong view is what blocks you. So these Brahmanical teachers had the same problem at that time. So, but you should be okay because hopefully you have the right view to kind of lead you on the right track. And if you haven't got it, then I will show you some suttas to read. So please come up to later on. I'll show you the right suttas, and then you'll be fine afterwards. No more problems. Yeah. Maybe. Okay. Let's see. Dear Ajahn, can you explain again what the exalted mind is? So the word exalted in English is a translation of the Mahagata Chitta. Mahagata means something like great mind. Maha is great. Gata is means gone, so something like gone great or just great. Yeah, so it's the great mind. And if you read the standard, is similar to is it in the Brahma Viharas, the Appamana Chitta? I don't think sure if Mahagata is there. Mahagata means any kind of mind which is developed to become great. And the Mahagata Chittas are things like the jhana states. Yeah, they are Mahagata Chittas. So the exalted mind is the great mind, which is expanded, limitless, without any kind of defilements left. That is what it actually refers to. That's the exalted mind. And any mind which hasn't got to that level is the unexalted mind. And then you have the anuttara mind, the unsurpassed mind, anuttara, with nothing beyond it. You have the vimutta chitta, the liberated mind, and all of these things. And these are all part of the citta nupassana. Yeah, so this is why I say the jhanas are part of Satipatthana. They are certainly part of the Satipatthana Sutta. They're right there because that's what the Mahagata Chitta and all of these things actually refer to. Okay. Dear Venerable, can you kindly expand some more about the concept of mind objects? I see it from time to time, but don't understand how it differs from mere thoughts and feelings. Thank you. So again, the idea of mind objects here, this is the Dhammanupassana of the Satipatthana Sutta. And I am a little bit doubtful whether mind objects actually is the right translation. And again, what we need to do to decide on the translation, first of all, we have to find out what this sutta originally looked like. And I think it is quite likely that the original sutta, actually all it had, instead of having all these different exercises, it had just the 5 hindrances and the 7 factors of awakening. Yeah, that is, to me looks like the original part of the Dhammanupassana. So the idea of adding the Four Noble Truths and the 5 aggregates and all of that may be a later expansion. It seems to be, because again, through comparative study, that's what it looks like. Now, if you look at the 5 hindrances and the 7 factors of awakening, you will see that the way they are explained, I remember today we looked at them, they said, first of all, you know whether the hindrance is present or absent, you know the cause for the hindrance, you know how to abandon the cause, you know the future non-arising. It is all about causality, how these things happen. Because when you understand the causality of these things, how they come about, then by leaving aside, dropping the cause, you're also dropping the result. So if you understand how anger comes about, anger comes about because you look at people in the wrong way, you look at the negative aspect or whatever, that's how anger comes about. You start to look at people differently, and then anger does not arise. So very, very useful. So this causality is what it is about. And this is why some people like to translate the Dhamma as principles, because principles here is like the principle of causality. It is a core Buddhist principle of how the Dhamma, how the world functions. It functions according to cause and conditions. So this is why I think principles is quite a nice one. So you contemplate Dhammanupassana, contemplation of principles instead of mind objects. You contemplate the causality, you contemplate these things in the Dhamma. That is how I would look at it. And I think it makes good sense. Are mind objects, are the 5 hindrances, are they mind objects? They are kind of tones of the mind. They are things that affect the mind. Are they objects of mind? They can be made an object if you're focusing on them, but these are always changing. They are amorphous. It is, I'm not sure if object is quite the right way of looking at these things, but you can perhaps translate it as a mind object. You have ill will, you can make it into an object if you like. It is a possible translation, but I'm not sure if it is ideal. So how it differs from thoughts and feelings? Well, thoughts is often verbalization. So when you think, you think a thought, you kind of like you're talking to yourself or something like that, and then those thoughts are affected by the 5 hindrances. So for example, you can have a thought of ill will. It means that you may think, oh, I want to kill this particular person. I hope you please don't think that too often. It's dangerous. But you may think that, and then what is happening there is that the thought itself is affected by ill will. So you have thought, and then you have the hindrance at the same time. This is the distinction. So there's a thought of ill will is a thought affected by ill will. And feelings, well, the feelings are really not the same thing as emotion. So the feeling that comes with ill will is usually like an unpleasant feeling. It doesn't feel very nice usually. But the feeling that comes with sensual pleasure can be a nice one. It may feel nice. But the feeling is just whether it's good or bad. But on top of that, you then have the emotional content, the anger or the desire or whatever. So you have to kind of pull these things apart a little bit. Okay. Last question for tonight. Venerable, you say we go into a relationship and after finding it boring we enter into a new one. It's a never-ending process. So what's the middle way? Don't enter or quit now, or what to do? There isn't any one right answer to this. For some people, it may be inevitable that they enter a relationship. I'm not going to judge people if they enter a relationship. Sometimes it's almost kind of a process that happens by itself, and you may not have much choice. It may kind of almost like your life has that kind of direction, and if you try to stop it, actually it is much worse for you than if you go through with it. And sometimes relationships can be really good. There are good relationships as well. And there is a very interesting sutta about Nakula Pita, Nakula Mata. And they were both stream enters, husband and wife, both were stream enters. Yeah, that's pretty cool, isn't it? And then, when they then have a very good marriage together, obviously, because they're always kind to each other, always caring, always doing the right thing, and then they go to the Buddha and they say, we have such a happy marriage. How can we ensure that we will also be married in the next life? Yeah, that's when you know you really had kind of a good marriage. So the Buddha explains to them how to get married in the next life. Usually people want to know how not to get married again in the next life, but they I can also tell you how to do that, but that's but that is very nice. So it is what we make out of the marriage that matters. So if you're going to have a relationship, make something out of it. Make that into a spiritual path. Make that into your make the very best out of that marriage. You can make a lot out of it, yeah, if you care for your partner, if you live in the right way, if you don't be too attached to them, yeah, have time apart when you go on retreats or whatever, all of these kind of things. It is possible to live a married life or a life in a relationship in a skillful way. Yeah. So don't try too hard to figure out what is right and what is wrong. Yeah. But of course, it is also perfectly okay to live alone. Yeah, a lot of people are very happy alone, and they live single lives all their lives. Many people are very happy to be monastics. Yeah, and they do that all their lives. There isn't always a right or wrong with these things. So you have to, whatever you do, make the most out of it. I think monastic life is great. And I would really recommend it to, if you have even the slightest inclination, I would recommend you to at least check it out, yeah? Try it out, come to the monastery for a while and see what happens. And if you enjoy it, then bang, yeah, you become a monastic. And then if it doesn't work out, you can always disrobe again later on if it doesn't work out for you. This is the nice thing about that. So don't try to sort it out. Just try different things. Feel what works for you. Don't feel that you have to do things one way or another way. And then you are likely not to make a decision that you regret later on. If you become too intellectual about it, rather than feel your way into these things, too much intellect often is based on the wrong feelings. Trust your intuition a little bit. Yeah, when you come to a meditation cushion, you sit down, your mind is peaceful, your mind is clear, you know what is going on. That is the time you can trust your intuition. If you have too much restlessness, too much desire, too much ill will, intuition is going to be no good. But if your mind is pure, your intuition is going to be very reliable. That is the intuition to go with. Don't try to think it out, because thinking is also unreliable, because thinking often is based on defilements itself. Come from the clear mind, far more powerful than the thinking mind. Okay, that is all the questions for tonight. So that is it for today. So have a nice night, have a good night's rest, and then I will be coming out again probably 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, and then we can continue tomorrow morning. Okay.